I cheated on my wife with a pregnant woman. I was walking on the beach when I noticed her. I knew my husband hadn't seen her. Sometimes he can be in his own world. I don't mind. When he's distracted, he usually thinks of me. He just likes being with me. He thinks about what he would like to do with me. Or he thinks about what he can do for me. He is amazingly kind to me. I love him madly and would do anything for him. I watched her for a while. She looked to be in her late 20s or early 30s. She had long brown hair from her shoulders to the middle of her back. Her face was very cute. At 5 feet 6 inches tall, she probably thought she was about 20 pounds overweight. At least until 5 months ago, she was clearly pregnant. She still had a great body and hips. You could clearly see the soft curve of her belly. She was wearing a bikini thong that went down below her belly. She was wearing an orange gauze blanket. It was practically transparent and hid nothing. I smiled to myself and nudged my husband. My husband had always told me that he found pregnant women sexy. At first I thought it was strange, but after reading a bit, I realized that it's quite common. It is especially common among men whose mothers were pregnant during their formative years. My husband had 3 siblings, all born within 7 years. His mother was pregnant from the time he was a year old until he was 7. This is the second marriage for both of us. We met 10 years ago. We already had children and decided not to have any more. My husband's first marriage was not a happy one. He told me that when his wife was pregnant, she wouldn't let him touch her. Ironically, when I was pregnant, I was very horny and my husband would not touch me. When I pushed my husband out of the world he was in, he looked at me. It's always funny. He looks at me like a big dog who thinks he's on his knees. He wants to know what I want and what he can do to make me happy. Don't get me wrong. He's not a weakling. He is a big, strong, and determined man. People look up to him. When I need something, he is my rock. As he worships me, I worship him. He is definitely the man of our house. He makes it possible for me to be a woman. This time I tilted my head in her direction. This is a game we play. I often point out things or people that I know he finds beautiful or sexy. I am very confident in our love, and I know there is no need to be jealous. He finally realized which way I was pointing and looked. He noticed her too and said she was beautiful. I laughed and replied, "I am so good to you." He kissed me and said I was amazing. We kept walking. As we passed by, he threw me another look. He's so sweet. We were on vacation and stayed at a beach hotel. We took a nap, got dressed, and went to dinner. As we were eating, a young woman walked in. She was alone. She sat down not far from us. I suggested to my husband that we switch seats with her so he could see better. He just laughed, looked at me, and said the view was just perfect. He didn't look, but I examined her some more. She turned out to be just as beautiful as I thought she would be. She was wearing a white sundress that made her look like she belonged walking barefoot in a field. She sat alone. She didn't look around. She ordered, ate slowly, and stared at her plate. There seemed to be some sadness in her face. Her shoulders hung as if there was a heavy weight on them. We finished dinner and headed to the patio bar. It was a great place to watch the sunset, and there was a guitarist playing. We sat there, chatting, holding hands, enjoying the moment and sipping our drinks. As we were sitting there, she walked in. She sat at the railing about 2 tables away from us. She still looked sad. She sat there and just stared off into the distance. It seemed to me that she wasn't even looking at the sunset. It seemed like she was just deep in thought. Curiosity got the best of her. I went over to her table. I told her that I couldn't help but notice her brooding, that she was alone at dinner and now, and asked if everything was okay. She looked up at me and smiled. She thanked me for my concern, but assured me she was fine. I told her that my husband and I were also staying at the hotel and sitting over there. I said that if she wanted company, she could join us. She thanked me but didn't want to get involved. I told her that was nonsense and took her drink. She followed me to our table. I introduced my husband and myself. She said her name was Sharon and sat down. My husband immediately started chatting with her. He is a great conversation starter. People trust him and love talking to him. We learned that she is 29 years old and came here with her fiancé. They live together, and she is expecting a baby in 4 months. We asked where he was. She wasn't sure. They planned this vacation 8 months ago. But since they came here, he has been golfing every day. While golfing, he met a few guys and spent most of his time with them. We both said it was ridiculous and that she was too beautiful to leave her alone. She looked at us and smiled. We said her fiancé must be crazy. She told us that she had no intention of getting pregnant. She was on the pill and was just part of the 1%. My husband said this happened to his sister. He said that, on the other hand, he has a wonderful niece. That made her smile again. She said that since she got pregnant, their lives have changed. He didn't want the baby, but she couldn't give it up. He was mad at her, but he wouldn't give it up. When the vacations came, she hoped it would be a chance to make things right. So far, things looked different. As we talked about what we would be doing the next day. Sightseeing, shopping, a boat tour. She said it sounded like fun. She looked like she needed some entertainment. I invited her to come along. She refused at first, but I insisted. She agreed to meet my husband and me in the hotel lobby at 9 a.m. We said goodnight to each other and went to our room. On the way, I teased my husband, asking him if he thought he could keep her out of his hair all day. I asked him if he wanted me to call her and tell her what to wear, because I knew exactly what my husband liked. He just laughed. He pulled me to him and kissed me. He said he was lucky if he could keep up with me. We got to our hotel room, kissed like we were on our honeymoon, made love, and fell asleep in each other's arms. The next day we got up and I was trying to decide what to wear. My husband loves me in sundresses. He likes the flirty and feminine ones. He has a favorite. It's a mid-calf length sundress, white and purple, that buttons up the front and hugs my waist. It has a peasant neckline. I put it on. Truth be told, the dress is a little thin. At home, I would never wear it without a slip, but we were on vacation and no one knew us. I could afford to give my husband a treat. I found a cute set of thongs and bra. They were white and purple in color. I got dressed and examined myself in the mirror. Not bad for 48 years old. My husband liked my long hair. Sometimes it was down to my waist. Sometimes it was shoulder length. Right now, it was between my shoulder blades. I am of Latin descent, so my hair is dark and thick. I've always taken care of my skin. Because of my hair, my skin, and the fact that I was barely 5 feet tall, I was often mistaken for a young 20-something. I had a few extra pounds, but my husband told me he liked my curves. Last year, I did a boudoir photo shoot for my husband. During the photo shoot, the photographer was looking at proofs of one pose with her assistant. Her assistant was in her early 20s. The assistant looked at the proof and exclaimed, "Oh my goodness, I hope I'm as sexy at her age." I looked at what I was wearing. If you looked closely, you could see a bra and thong, but like I said, no one here knew us. I fiddled with the buttons a bit, trying to decide how much to show. I know my husband likes it when I flaunt myself a little. He likes it when men pay attention to me. I have to admit, I like it too. I went all out. I buttoned just from my bra line and just below my panties. I showed a lot of cleavage. Not that I have a lot of cleavage, but a push-up bra can do wonders. When I stood still, it was fine. When I walked, I showed a lot of leg. My husband came out of the shower, took one look at me, grabbed me, and kissed me. He commented on how gorgeous I was, grabbed my body, and pulled me to him. I reminded him that we had plans and that he could enjoy me later. He made me promise. We went downstairs to meet Sharon. She was just as beautiful today, just smiling. She thanked us again for the invitation and said she was looking forward to the night. I mentally noted that I wouldn't have to call her and tell her what to wear. She was wearing a short yellow sundress with a halter top. It was lightweight and you could see all her curves in the sunlight. My husband was watching. I kissed him and said, "It's tailor-made." She asked us if she was well-dressed. My husband said he couldn't wait to be seen with two such gorgeous women. We caught a cab and hit the road. We took in the sights, chatted, and had fun. Often she or I would see something girly, grab each other's hand, and run to check it out, giggling and laughing. My husband was just enjoying himself and the view. At one point, I caught her gaze on me. I asked if something was wrong. She commented on how beautiful and sexy I looked. She said she loved my dress, but her fiancé would never let her wear something so revealing. I told her that my husband likes the way I look, and generally likes it when men look at me. She said she likes to be looked at, but being 5 months pregnant, she feels fat and ugly. She said her fiancé hasn't touched her since she got pregnant. I hugged her and told her she was gorgeous. She pulled her face away and looked at me. Her nose was a few centimeters away from mine. She probed my eyes and asked me if I really thought she was beautiful. I told her yes and kissed her nose. Then I said, "Don't take my word for it, ask my husband." My husband caught up with us and I said, "Sharon says she's fat and ugly." He literally had a look of shock on his face. She asked if I was kidding. I replied that I wasn't. He looked at her and said that next to me, she was the sexiest he had ever seen on this vacation. He said that if he were single and 20 years younger, she wouldn't be able to see any of the sights because they would only leave the bedroom to eat. She laughed, hugged him, kissed him on the cheek, and said thank you. She came back to me, hugged me again, took my hand, and said, "This is so much fun. You guys are great." We finished our sightseeing and wandered around the stores. In one of the window displays, Sharon saw a dress that she liked. She said she would come back tomorrow as she was sure my husband wouldn't want to watch her try on dresses. I told her that she didn't know my husband. He and I always went shopping together. He had great taste in clothes and would pick out things to try on himself. Some of them were too sexy, but I always tried them on and showed them to him. I took her hand and we walked into the store. My husband followed us in. She and I took a dress from the display case and headed to the fitting room. My husband busied himself looking for dresses for us to try on. She and I reached the fitting room. She untied the halter and stepped out of the dress. She was without a bra. She had perfect breasts. I told her I remembered what mine looked like. She laughed and said that without a doubt mine were gorgeous. She was wearing a beautiful yellow thong with ruffles around her waist. She looked adorable. I told her that my husband would die if he saw her in panties like that, and told her that was his favorite style. She said, "Really?" I undid another button on my dress and pulled my sides apart to show her that mine were almost exactly the same style, just a different color. She fake scolded me and told me I shouldn't be wearing something so revealing, then said, "Who am I kidding? You look hot." She then said that she was willing to bet my husband would have a heart attack if he saw both of us now. I replied that he would definitely be happy. She put on the dress from the window. It fit her perfectly. She asked if she should show it to my husband. I said he'd be furious if she didn't. We walked out of the fitting room just as my husband came up with an armful of dresses. He said she looked great. She smiled and replied, "I'm glad you like it." She spun around in front of him, and the bottom of the dress fell open. My husband simply said, "Perfect." He handed each of us a stack of dresses he had picked out for us. Sharon looked at her pile, looked at me, and said, "He has great taste." She kissed him on the cheek and thanked him. We went to the fitting room and started trying on dresses. With each new dress, we went out to show it to my husband. He could tell which one fit and which one didn't. I always enjoyed trying on clothes for him. Sharon had a lot of fun. She would try something on and go out to show him. Each time, she'd thank him for his opinion. Sharon would open the dressing room door, give him what was finished, and take a new one. She seemed to forget what she was wearing. At first, she would stand outside the door, peering in and making the exchange, but then she got bolder and bolder. At one point, she just opened the door topless, in just her panties. I was standing there in my bra and panties. He just looked at us and said, "Very gorgeous." Sharon smiled, turned around, moved her body, and closed the door. When we were done, we had a couple new things. Sharon hugged the two of us and said, "You guys are amazing. I haven't felt this good in months." She kissed us both and said, "Thank you." This time, we both shared a quick kiss on the lips. Watching Sharon get excited, watching her change, watching her flirt, I started to get a little turned on. I'm not bi. I've never been with a woman. I've always thought women were beautiful. Talking to Sharon, I started to feel something different. I became aroused, and it was directed at her. I whispered to my husband, "She excites me." He replied, "Me too." The next store was a lingerie store. Sharon asked if we could go in there. My husband said, "Okay, but there's a rule. You have to model everything you buy." It was a standing joke between him and me. Sharon's eyes lit up and she said, "Really? This should be fun." My husband and I just looked at each other. Sharon walked around the store picking out panties, teddies, and nighties. She kept bringing them to my husband and I for approval. We noticed that she kept picking out the shortest and longest. I knew my husband loved these things. She made her choices and came back to show us. She asked what we thought. We said they were sexy. She replied, "Wait until you see them on you." It was getting late, and it was time to head back to the hotel for dinner. Sharon asked if she could join us. We said yes. She said she would meet us in the room after she changed. A short time later, she knocked on our door. She was wearing one of her new dresses. If she wasn't pregnant, it would have flowed around her differently and been longer. As it was, it barely covered her belly in the front. Still, she looked gorgeous, and we told her so. She pulled the dress up, exposing a tiny see-through thong, and said, "See the new panties." We told her they were gorgeous, too. My husband added, "With a body like that, everything will be great." She turned to the mirror, pulled up her dress again, and looked over her shoulder and said, "You're right. I do look good." We headed out to dinner. We got a corner booth, the kind that everyone has to squeeze into. I sat on one side of my husband, Sharon on the other. As she slid into the booth, it was obvious that her short dress was too short to sit in. Also, because the dress was tied, the front of the dress opened up under her breasts and exposed her belly. The table was covered from view, but for my husband and I, she was sitting in practically a top and panties. I knew my husband was enjoying the view. As we were ordering, my husband's hand came down on my leg. I looked back, and Sharon's hand was resting on my husband's leg. We ate, and then went to watch the sunset on the patio. My husband and I shared a bottle of wine. Sharon couldn't drink. I began to feel warm. I have always felt that way about my husband. Add wine and a sunset to this, and I was ready. I said to my husband, "Why don't we go to our room?" Sharon replied, "Okay." We didn't expect that. We took the elevator up. I had no idea what was going on. I knew my husband was completely confused. Sharon held my hand on the way up. She kept telling us what a great day she was having and what wonderful people we were. We got to our room, and Sharon said she didn't think the day could get any better. She put her arms around my neck and snuggled up against me. I could feel her body next to mine and smell her perfume. She threw her head back and kissed my cheek. She pulled back again, and this time kissed me on the lips. It was short, but it was a kiss. She saw the look of confusion on my face and burst into tears. I hugged her, and she hugged me back. I told her it was okay. She said she had never done anything like this before. She had never kissed a girl before. She said she hadn't planned it. We just made her feel so special that it worked itself out. I hugged her and told her it was okay, and that I had never kissed a girl either. She threw her head back and looked at me and kissed me again. This time I knew what was going on. It felt good, and I kissed her back. She turned and looked at my husband. Putting one arm around me, she reached out to him with her other arm. She pulled him into our embrace. She told him that he was wonderful too. Then she kissed him on the lips. He pulled away and looked at me. She was right. He was amazing. I just smiled at him. He pulled back and, as always, said to Sharon, "You're going through a tough time. We all had a great day, but we don't want you to do something you'll regret later or get carried away." She looked at me, at my husband. She said, "I'm 29 years old and I'm completely sober. I haven't been touched in 5 months. I had a great day and now I feel sexy, loved, and very horny. No one is taking advantage of me. In fact, it could be the opposite." With those words, she turned to face me again. This time, it wasn't a gentle kiss, but a passionate one. I felt the heat and couldn't help but respond. I felt the heat in my body that occurs whenever I feel sexy. Without letting go of my hand, she grabbed her husband by his shirt, pulled him to her, and kissed him the same way. I watched their lips connect. He pulled away. I thought to myself that this is exactly what she wanted. I knew I could feel it, and I also remembered how sexy my husband found pregnant women. He deserved it. I pulled him to me and kissed him hard. Then I turned to her and kissed her again. I gave my husband a sexy smile and said, "Your turn." I watched them kiss. It was hot. Who knew that watching another woman kiss my husband could be so sexy? My arm wrapped around Sharon's back and slid down her back. All day in the fitting room, I'd been looking at her body. Now I realized I wanted to touch it. My hand slipped under the dress and touched her body. She smiled and kissed me again. On a whim, I reached down and touched my husband's body. I pulled away from Sharon's kiss, looked at my hand, and said, "Someone else is enjoying it too." She followed my gaze, put her palm on my hand, and said, "I'm glad. I plan to use it tonight. But first..." She kissed me again. She wrapped both arms around me. She said, "I've been admiring your gorgeous body all day, and it's time to get you out of that dress." She undid a few more buttons and pulled the dress down over my head. Oh my God. I'd never been undressed by a woman before. The anticipation was killing me, and so she undid my bra and let it fall to the floor. She looked at my breasts. I threw my head back. It felt so good. I opened my eyes and saw my husband watching me. I pulled him to me and kissed him while she played with my breasts. A woman's touch is different. They're softer. I let go of my husband and turned my full attention to Sharon. I reached out and pulled at the ties of her tight dress. It fell open. I slid it off her shoulders and it fell to the floor. We pulled each other to the bed, and once there, we started kissing again. The air smelled of sex. I looked up. I realized that my husband was sitting on the edge of the bed watching us. I told him to take off his clothes and come over here. I watched him undress. He didn't have a perfect body, and neither did I. But I loved him. Sharon looked at my husband's body and said to me, "He's beautiful. Do you have sex with him all the time?" I nodded. What a strange feeling. Another woman is playing with my husband's steely, and I'm not jealous. I'm proud of him. I looked at my husband and said, "Have sex with her. Show her how you do it with me." I knew the words he liked to hear. It was so hot. I could feel her holding her breath in anticipation. My husband started having sex with Sharon. Afterward, she pushed me away from her and said, "That was the most amazing thing I've ever felt." I kissed her on the lips. Then I kissed my husband so he could feel me too. Sharon started having sex with my husband again. She told me she hated me. She said it wasn't fair that I was getting his body all to myself. I told her to enjoy it while she could because tomorrow he would be mine again. I kissed my husband again. I whispered in his ear, "I know what you want. You do." We all lay there panting. Sharon stood up. She looked at both of us and said, "Thank you. You two are amazing." She put on her clothes, kissed us both again, and left. We looked at each other and smiled. Our hands reached for each other and we hugged. We kissed back. This time it was a loving kiss. Not the kind that says, I want you. The one that says I'm yours forever. We fell asleep with our arms around each other. We didn't see Sharon again after that. 6 months later, we got a letter. It was from Sharon. She said that she had broken up with her fiancé when she got home. She felt more confident. It must have manifested itself at work. Just before she went on maternity leave, her boss called her into his office. He said he didn't know a vacation could be so beneficial to a person. Everyone noticed her increased efficiency upon her return, and she was immediately promoted. The promotion was accompanied by a big pay raise. They told her to enjoy the baby and couldn't wait for her return. The baby was a girl, healthy, happy, perfect. She named her after me. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.